Welcome to another episode of SpaceX in the News. I'm Kevin, and today we're going to start things off with some updated information concerning Wednesday's breaking news episode about Starship's pop top. Then we'll check in on the status of the recent Starlink satellites that were placed into orbit. We'll see what's up with Dragon and the Commercial Crew program, and we'll also take a look at some upcoming SpaceX launches as well. Then we'll finish with today's honorable mention. So if you keep current with my videos, or at least take a peek at space news from time to time, you have no doubt heard by now that SpaceX lost their first Starship prototype during a pressure test in Boca Chica on Wednesday. On November 18th, SpaceX performed a leak check on the vehicle's tanks using pressurized gas, then just 2 days later performed a pressure test on those same tanks using liquid-cooled oxygen. When a portion of the welding failed and the top tank bulkhead blew completely off, soaring hundreds of feet into the air and landing on the opposite side of Highway 4. It was revealed through back-channel information that a communications error between the pump's sensors and remote controls allowed the tank to be massively and erroneously overpressured to the point of failure. Elon immediately tweeted that SpaceX will scrap the Mk1 prototype and move on to Mark 3, and SpaceX released a statement claiming that the test was done to pressurize systems to the max, and thus the outcome was not completely unexpected. However, that doesn't mean that SpaceX tested to failure, which is something they are known to do. But what's really interesting is that SpaceX also wrote that they made the decision not to fly the Mk1 to 20 kilometers as they previously planned, and instead would focus on Mark 3 builds that are designed for orbit. This decision must have been made soon after the first leak test, otherwise why would you put wings on the lower half of a ship you don't intend to fly? And yes, to no one's surprise, all future road closures have been canceled. But the SpaceX crew does seem unfazed by the loss of the vessel. They're acting like the future is all that matters as they continue to work on the Boca Chica facilities. The foundation for a new building site on the SpaceX premises is being prepped for construction, and 25 containers are being deliberately stacked around what was formerly the Mk1 nose cone. I assume it has been promoted to the Mark 3 prototype, but we'll have to wait and see what SpaceX decides to do with the former Starship parts. The Cocoa, Florida team is getting things done as well. The ironic thing to notice is that Mark 2 now has its top bulkhead installed, the same piece that Mk1 just launched into a suborbital flight. So it begs the question, what's going to be done with this version of Starship? My guess is they will make whatever changes necessary given the mishap Boca Chica just experienced and press on. However, I will add that drone pilot John Wincomp is reporting that SpaceX is scrapping the 23 single weld rings that they created for the Mark 4 prototype. But this was done prior to Monday's explosion. And again, this leads to my theory that something significant was discovered during the leak checks on the 18th that also led to the intention of not flying Mark 1. You can see in this picture by Seymour Holdings that 2 rings have been chopped up. And just a quick side note while we're on the topic of stainless steel rings, Elon revealed Tesla's new Cybertruck on Thursday, and the body looked quite familiar.
So it's ultra hard, cold rolled stainless steel alloy that we've developed. We're going to be using the same alloy in the Starship rocket and in the Cybertruck.
Elon also met back up with Starship's donor and first planned passenger to gift him one of Starhopper's thruster pods. Several of these were used during the rocket's 2 hot flights to control the attitude of the vehicle by ejecting cold nitrogen gas. Okay, so did you already forget about the last Starlink launch? You know, the one that placed 60 SpaceX satellites into orbit around the Earth? Neither did I. And apparently all of them, including the runt of the litter that SpaceX was keeping a special eye on, have deployed their solar arrays and powered on their thrusters to raise their orbits. All 60 sats should reach their operational altitude of 550 kilometers around January. And concerning the record-setting booster that took them to space, its legs were completely removed after an attempt to fold them back up. And Stephen Marr captured a time-lapse of the crew laying the booster down. In other news, NASA shared a video of last week's Dragon static fire test in slow-mo. Crew Dragon is one of 2 spacecraft that will take Americans to the International Space Station next year. I'm remaining hopeful that the capsule's next hurdle will be the in-flight abort mission next month, where those Super Draco thrusters will lift the capsule off the booster during max Q, where most aerodynamic and thermal stress is on the rocket. Should be quite the show. And it could be happening around the same time of its counterpart's uncrewed demo flight to the space station. Just this week, Boeing's Starliner capsule was successfully placed upon a ULA Atlas V booster. But before any of that, we have the next resupply mission to the International Space Station, CRS-19, that is scheduled to launch on December 4th on a Falcon 9 rocket, as well as JCSat-18 on December 15th. And of course, I'm still holding my breath for at least 1 or 2 Starlink missions by the end of the year, but you never know, I may just pass out. But before I do, it's time for today's honorable mention. NASA has picked 5 more private companies to participate and bid on a lunar lander for Artemis. These companies are Blue Origin, Ceres Robotics, Sierra Nevada Corporation, Tyvak Nanosatellite Systems, and SpaceX. And yes, SpaceX will be submitting Starship. NASA plans on using private moon landers, built by 1 or 2 of these now 14 bidders, to deliver rovers to the moon's south pole, as well as power stations, science experiments, and other structures for a lunar base. They plan on spending a total of $2.6 billion on these contracts through 2028, but are also seeking ideas for a new lunar rover as well. NASA Associate Administrator for Strategy and Plans, Tom Crimmins, spoke at the Spacecom Expo on November 20th and said that the agency will soon release a request for information for an unpressurized lunar rover. The autonomous capable rover will be used for Artemis and placed on the moon prior to the arrival of any astronauts, so that science operations can be conducted from the Gateway Station orbiting above. Well, that's all I have for you guys today. A very special shout out to my eccentric patrons whose generous support keeps these episodes churning. If you'd like to sign up, there's a link in the description. Thank you all so much for tuning in, and until the next one, Godspeed.